college students to doctors, to police officers, to, very, very large audience. So when you're working on your messaging, and this is something that we've both succeeded at and failed at times, you have to work on your messaging to be able to communicate to everyone simultaneously. And when we're able to communicate with everyone simultaneously, that's when we see the largest amount of success when trying to put a message out. So for us, it was focusing on that. It was also when relationship building, if they don't know who you are, you can't really build a relationship. You can't really make a friendship. So for us, we're one of the cryptocurrencies, or crypto companies and tech companies that really mainstreamed what they call doxing within the crypto sphere, because usually projects are very quiet about their identities. For us, we wanted to put our names behind what Safemoon stands for. And that allows us to communicate more clearly with our community.
Hi guys. Oh wow, that's so loud. My name is Alexa Curtis. I am the founder of a college summit company and had a show on Radio Disney, but I started as a blogger back in 2011. So I was actually just talking to Sydney this morning about how back when I started, this whole term influencer, Instagram wasn't even really around. So I definitely think in the terms of building a community, really starting small. I think people always go right to be authentic and use your voice, and I think that's great, but I think the bigger question is how do we teach people how to be authentic? I don't think that a lot of people honestly know how to do it, right? Because of social media, everyone wants to kind of be someone else or look like someone else. So certainly failures, so much rejection along the way, especially in entertainment. And then I think the biggest success has been with this college summit program that I started, with the colleges, like you said, with those students, getting in front of them and really being able to see how hard it is now for people to find their identity. That's kind of a huge main focus for us. So yeah, and utilizing social media is obviously great to build community, engage with people. I know crypto is super big on Twitter, so I'm kind of interested in that space, and yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah. So when you were building community, when was the first time you realized you had a community, and what did that look like, and was it what you wanted it to look like?
So Safemoon was organic growth, and in all reality, we grew so fast. I don't actually know how to answer that question. It's just here's the family, here's your Safemoon army. Communicate with them. So that's kind of the inception. Yeah, I've moved really, really quickly. So didn't really have to go through some of those major building steps, but it was the steps that we had to take was how do you build trust with that community, which was doxing ourselves, learning how to communicate effectively with a wide audience, and listening. Listening super important. And it's also very beneficial for a business to be able to talk directly to their community, to their users, and hear exactly what kind of features they want. We don't have to hold a focus group and then hope for the best. I can hop in Discord and be like, do you want me to cross the chains? And then if I get a resounding yes, then we cross the chains. It's a very simple process, and it actually cuts down a lot of the costs that go into developing products. Again, to reference my former panel, if we're able to eliminate friction points, we're able to pass those savings on to our users and also onto the project where we're trying to get a return on impact.
Back when I started blogging in 2011, you would have to, does anyone remember blogger.com? This is so long ago. You would have to click on the side, and click subscribe. I don't know if anyone knows this. And now there's Squarespace and WordPress. So that was, you would go on someone else's website and comment, and then they would go back to yours, and you're like, I want to follow you, follow me back, whatever. Now I think it's so much easier because you can build something on Twitter or on TikTok, and you can do and use that same technique, right? Go and comment on someone's post or DM someone, LinkedIn, and message them that way. So I think that's kind of cool with building a community. And I think that's how I did it from the beginning authentically. And now with social media, it's so much easier to just continue to grow it. And when you get the yeses from people, so when I ask students questions and we send out forms and whatnot, if they say no, we won't proceed with an idea. But then if a bunch of people say, we want this panel idea or whatnot, we take that pretty seriously and then go from there and send out forms. And I think trying to get as much feedback as possible to continue to build a community is really important.
Yeah. And so, John, I know you use Discord, and obviously, Alexa, you use a plethora of platforms. What platform today do you find is the most effective to reach your audience and community, and also go beyond providing a service, whether that's providing a podcast or providing products?
So you can actually break it down a little bit. So Twitter, if you're trying to put a statement out, use Twitter. If you're actually trying to converse, use Discord. And then you supplement that by using Instagram. Well, you can use the digital medium, so YouTube or a video on Twitter. So you can then supplement each one of those, but Discord's kind of like our main hub because it's a live conversation. Twitter is not really a live conversation. You know, if your internet's slow, you got to keep hitting refresh. So that's better for public statements. YouTube is great, but that's kind of a fire and forget. Even if you have a live stream, the chat's going so fast you can't really converse. And if you're on the live stream, you're not really looking at the chat. You're looking at the cameras. You're working with the crew on the set. But yeah, so Twitter for statements and then Discord for engagement.
That's like a great question. So I agree with everything you say. I also think a lot of times when I'll talk to aspiring entrepreneurs or young college students who want to start a company or have a side hustle, they're always like, okay, I'm on Instagram or TikTok, but it's not working. And I'm like, okay, but I think you need a product, right? Because people will always think I'm going to go right to TikTok and post, or I'm going to go to Instagram. It's too saturated now. Like when I started, this wasn't a thing. So I had so many years to build it. So unless you're going viral, which is -% of people, but even then, it's like, why do you want to go viral, right? Like, what are you trying to promote? So I'm a big fan of having a website. I mean, I'm on all the platforms. I have podcasts and whatnot, but I think something audio-based is great, like a podcast or having a blog is honestly really important because I think then you always have something to sell and fall back on because social media might not always be here. So I don't tell anyone rely only on like posting on one tweet a week, right? That's not going to build what you could build in the way that if you had a website or a product like Safemoon, obviously, can do.
Yeah, it's playing on the strengths of the platform. So.
And I think one thing that people, there's so many things we were told to do of building platforms and building communities. What's one of the biggest mistakes you've made in your past of trying to engage with that community and build it and build a safe but also exciting community as well? That's hard to, some things are boring. But
as I mentioned before, it's about learning how to communicate effectively to everyone and deliver a message that resonates with each individual person. And so it wouldn't necessarily be, oh, what was the biggest mistake? It's more about, there was an AMA back in April. I think that was probably one of the ones where we did not effectively communicate what we wanted to communicate. And so I had to hop on a live stream after that and clarify the points we wanted to make. But it was a learning experience for us, realizing if you're going to be in a very chaotic environment, either prep the person more beforehand or get them to go into a quiet environment where they can deliver the message that they intended to deliver. So it's about learning how to communicate effectively and using the proper mediums.
I think coming from the influencer, I hate that term, but the influencer social media side of things, I would certainly say, I totally lost my train of thought. Can you ask me the question one more time?
just what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made as you built your community?
Trying to do too many things. I think now with TikTok and Instagram and a website and a podcast, I have struggled watching it grow like this. When I started, none of this, like I said, was a thing. So trying to do all of it, but it's really hard. I mean, it's creating content. People who do that full time, I mean, it's kind of fascinating because it's like slightly exhausting and kind of boring if you do that all day sometimes. So I think probably the biggest mistake was trying to do all of it instead of just really focusing on one thing. So sometimes I remind myself to really go back to the blog because that was like the starting ground. And I think that was what made me successful. So I would certainly say trying to pick one avenue and put a lot of effort into that and see how that grows.
Yeah, and I think for the audience it'd be helpful to know when was your community actually solidified? When did you realize, like a year almost, what year did you see this is a community, this isn't just a bunch of people using one service, one product?
So Safemoon's only been around 12 months as of this month. Happy birthday, Safemoon, and happy birthday, Safemoon Army. So last year.
I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So I think I had like two pivotal moments that I really realized. Probably the first summit that I hosted with Drexel in 2019. And then, but before that, it was just years of rejection. So seeing all the students come to that was really interesting. And then probably when I got the yes from Radio Disney, because before that, like I said, I was just doing so many different things. And then that was like the one where I was like, okay, if someone at that caliber believes in me at Disney, then I think that's when I really realized this is a product.
So only a year, but several years as well. How did you keep everyone engaged? Where did you ever feel like you were losing your community, and how did you fix that?
For us, it's not really about losing community. You know, the community evolves. People come and go. But generally speaking, it's just about communicating and continuing. You know, we're playing an infinite game, not a finite game. And so you can't look at it as in, okay, next year we're done. No, we're continuously evolving, and we need to continuously be able to deliver the messaging regarding what we're doing. And we've gone through different evolutions. You know, we used to do, in the early days, it was an AMA 3 times a week on voice chat on Discord. Quickly realized that was absolutely chaotic. So then we went to 2 times a week, but we then did, I think we were using Microsoft, what is it called? Microsoft Teams. There we go. Thank you. Microsoft Teams. And so we do a live stream, but we'd just get the screen of Microsoft Teams and talk there. We did that for a bit. We were doing that 2 to 3 times a week, and then it kind of evolved to twice a month, and now we're doing Safemoon special events. And so it's being able to evolve your communication style will allow you to continuously engage your community. But also, you can't forget your roots. So for us, I still engage on Twitter, Discord, Reddit, Facebook. Am I missing anything else? No, I think that's about it. So.
That's a really good question too. I have noticed that, and that was kind of why I launched this summit program, is I didn't really always want to be in the front of the camera, because the issue with that is that you have people relying on you to talk and be yourself every day. But like, if you deal with depression or anxiety, you don't want to go on Instagram every day, right? So I think that something that I found really interesting is having a product where you don't have to be the face of it, so not a personal brand, and that can kind of roll on its own. So as long as you're putting out consistent stuff to people, and like with me hosting these summits or whatnot, if I have days where I don't want to go on Instagram, like my personal one, people are still following that. But I think that actually is a good point to try and at least be on 2 or 3 of these platforms, TikTok or YouTube, or have a podcast, so that people, if you aren't necessarily on Instagram, they're still being able to go other places and find you and what you're working on.
Yeah, I think also, I find, so you were saying before how Safemoon wants to dox yourselves and be the face and the name behind things. And Alexa, you're obviously, a lot of your work is putting your personality out there. When it comes to owning a community, building that and building those relationships, how do you discern what to include and reveal about yourself? And what do you find, is there anything you wish you never shared with your community?
I'm just myself. There's no version of me that exists with the community and outside. I might not share some personal details about my life, but what you see is what you get with me.
I wish I had started in crypto. This wasn't around really, I guess kind of in 2011. I'd be really rich if I was in it then. But I find it so interesting because it's all anonymous. Like, in a sense, a lot of people in crypto are anonymous, so it's opposite of what I've built. But
it's very robotic.
Yeah.
So crypto was very robotic, and there wasn't a human element to it. And so Safemoon is a human-focused innovation company. So you can't run that the same way you would run, you can't run it as a bot. So you have to run it as a person.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I've put thousands of things over the years I shouldn't have put on the internet, and now I tell kids, like, don't do what I did, use my mistakes. Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of that is trial and error too. If you are building something, you're gonna, you just don't always know. I mean, like I said, I put stuff out there and it wasn't perceived in the way that I thought it through as it would come off. So I think whenever you do post on social media, or now, because it is a company, right? So anything, even if it is my life, or like I go on a bad date or something, like someone at a TV place might look at that and be like, oh my God, this is not appropriate. So I think just trying to be unfiltered, but always having some sense of a filter, so that nothing you put out is taken the wrong way.
I would say it's like, decorum, common courtesies. So what you might do at home, whether you slurp your soup or you don't put the dishes away, that's the stuff you don't really share. But this is who I am, this is what I believe in, that's the stuff you do share.
Yeah, and so when it comes to running businesses with communities as the base customers, as the people who are promoting the companies, promoting the brand, using their services, why is having a community so important for your companies? And how do you use that, and whether that's pitching VCs for investments or finding new opportunities? How does that community bring you ahead, and why is it important?
So for Safemoon, our community is at our core, and also integrated into our development cycle. As I said before, when we were wondering whether or not we should do cross-chain, I'm like, well, I'm just going to ask, do we want to cross the chains? We got a resounding yes. Great. Put it into the development cycle and get it out.
I mean, it's crucial. You can't really get anything or anywhere. I mean, no one's going to give someone just for a small idea $1 million, right? They need a product behind it, some type of plan. So I certainly think that building a community and just being really good with networking and outreach is just critical in all of the early phases and even further into it. I mean, I think a lot of successful people become successful because the success is not really what they're looking for. Even they'll become successful and they still want to build something else. So really going back to those roots and again, trying to look at the first people who followed or wrote emails and whatnot. Those people have followed me from the beginning because of authenticity, right? They like this personality, they like this voice. So as I evolve and change, they kind of grow with me. And I think that's kind of cool about social media too, is there are so many different trends and whatnot, but people just choose what they like. They choose which crypto company they want to invest in or where to put their money. Even as it evolves, they're staying with that one bank, with that one company, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and one thing I cover a lot is the creator economy, and there's becoming a much more pivot to the community members understanding that they are part of that economy. How have you adjusted to customers and people who follow you to realize that they are part of your company, they're part of your vision, and community kind of becomes blurred in that way?
So you're talking about natural progression or the growth of internal influencers within the company or within the brand?
Yeah, and obviously anyone who follows your company, who uses your services,
Yeah.
That interaction is much more transparent today.
Yeah. There's people who are more vocal than others. So someone who I will never say their name, other people within the Safemoon Army who are a little bit more vocal, whether they put YouTube videos out, whether they are really into hoodies. They're a little bit more vocal and they have more of a defined personality. And then you have other people in the community that hop in and out casually. But it's just like with the family, you get to learn everyone's personality types. Some of them are bigger than others. And then it's learning how to listen to the more quiet people as well as the loud people at the same time. And that's an ever-evolving process as well, because people come and go, people evolve, people leave, and so it's being able to adapt and pivot with the communication style that you're using.
I don't know if you guys ever saw on the news a few months ago, there was like two girls, I'm going to use their names because they were on the news, Brittany Dawn and this Caroline Calloway girl, and they had built these massive platforms, and then the one fitness girl, hundreds of thousands of followers, and she's so hot, and like everyone wants to be her, and people were giving her $100 a month to make these custom fitness plans, and it all like broke on the news that they weren't custom. And I think that was a really interesting thing because it reminded people that as much as she emails you back or she replies to your DM, that's not authenticity, right? That just showed you right there, this is all kind of fake, and that sucks. So something that I've certainly noticed that I do quite often is if someone replies to a story, like if I put up a poll, right? And I think Instagram's really great for that kind of connection. I'll DM someone if they follow me, why did you say this or what interests you about that? And then from there, I'll be like, I launched this other program called Mentor Match. So can I offer you a call with a mentor? And I think that a lot of people are like, wow, like why is this girl replying to that? Just because you have the following doesn't mean that you stop engaging with people all the time. Like, why would I not reply to that? But I certainly wouldn't send out a fake custom fitness plan because people are going to find out. It's the internet. Like, you can't do that stuff.
Yeah, and I think too right now we're seeing a big reimagining of what community means, whether that's talking about metaverse ideas or Web3. How are you preparing to future-proof your communities and have them transition into these new spaces and new concepts of interacting in these internet worlds?
So we started off as Web3, so we're not really transitioning into Web3, but I'm going to go back to it. It's continuous communication with the community and getting their feedback when you release a product. That'll allow that community to evolve not only by themselves, but also with the company and the brand and the vision.
Okay, so I can't really answer that directly because I'm not really in crypto. But that being said, I would certainly say, based on how fast these things are moving and how interested people are in NFTs in that space, something I do is certainly on my podcast. Like I'm interested in the crypto space. I don't really understand it, so I want to learn about it. So I take my platforms and I say, okay, I want to learn, which means someone else out there wants to learn about what an NFT is or how to build this kind of a company or what is Web3. So then I'll post a podcast episode with an expert in that space or a video to talk about whatever it is that, especially like in that crypto space, so that people kind of understand and learn that way. So I wouldn't necessarily say like evolving it fully going into like Web3 in my sense, because that doesn't really apply to my company, but talking about it does, because everyone's interested in it.
Yeah. And I think no matter what, when you are the person running a community, building that community, there are fears. What are you afraid of? If you are, or maybe you're not.
I don't let fear go into my decision-making process, so I usually just bury that away and don't let it out. So, hope that answers the question.
My whole thing is being fearless, so I don't really have... Yeah.
Wasn't me.
However, I certainly... I didn't think about this years ago when I was starting, but like this whole cancel culture I think is bullshit, but it does go through my mind. Now I do way more consciously think about what I'm posting, because I think it would be really easy to be canceled. So it's a weird thing to think about, but you really just have to think a lot harder about what you post on the internet because of that.
Yeah. And just to wrap it up too, what do you think are the most important lessons of someone who wants to build a community right now? What would be the first step to take be?
Learn how to communicate effectively to a wide audience and learn how to listen to a wide audience.
I think the one piece of advice I would have is to just start small instead of getting frustrated if you post a video or Instagram, whatever, and you don't get a lot of views. It's because you haven't really done the outreach. People don't necessarily just come to you. You really have to seek out a customer and find that market and try things out. So I would certainly say start small. Like when I did the first summit, it was with Drexel, right? I didn't go to Vanderbilt. We got that afterwards. I don't think they would have said yes initially. So certainly starting small like that, and then trying to have case studies from everything that you do.
And in my reporting, I always ask this question to anyone I'm interviewing.
Learn how to communicate effectively to a wide audience and learn how to listen to a wide audience.
I think the one piece of advice I would have is to just start small instead of getting frustrated if you post a video or Instagram, whatever, and you don't get a lot of views. It's because you haven't really done the outreach. People don't necessarily just come to you. You really have to seek out a customer and find that market and try things out. So I would certainly say start small. Like when I did the first summit, it was with Drexel, right? I didn't go to Vanderbilt. We got that afterwards. I don't think they would have said yes initially. So certainly starting small like that, and then trying to have case studies from everything that you do.
And in my reporting, I always ask this question to anyone I'm interviewing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to say?
I can talk about community all day long. So, we've got other panels to do, but I'm good on my end.
I think I'm good.
All right. I don't know how to end this officially, but here we go.
You did it. That's how you end it, right there. One more time for our great panel here. Thanks so much, everybody. You guys. Oh, do we have questions? Anyone?
Oh, yeah.
Questions?
Questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns, feedback? Okay, we're running short on time, so that'll be a wrap for this panel here.